The moment you walk into a room, you feel it. The air shifts, the noise lowers just enough for you to notice, and your body knows before your mind catches up that every eye has turned toward you. Some are curious, some are doubtful, some are quietly hostile, and some are waiting for you to trip. This is the reality of being alive in a world that thrives on judgment. Everyone is watching, not always out of admiration, but often out of hunger. They are waiting for a sign that you do not belong. And most people hand it to them without even realizing it. They fidget, they look down, they rush to speak, they laugh at jokes that are not funny, and in doing. So they announce to the room, "I am nervous, I am unsure, I am hoping you will accept me." But power begins with a different choice. The choice not to flinch when the weight of 100 eyes tries to pin you down. Because the truth is, the room is not really judging you. They are judging themselves through you. They are asking if they could stand there without cracking, if they could face the heat and not sweat when you walk with steady steps. When your gaze does not dart but moves slowly with control, you create the question in their minds. What does this person know? That I do not. Why are they so calm? Why do they look untouched by what crushes others? That question is your weapon. It is what makes you dangerous, because people do not fear what they understand. They fear what they cannot read. The average person believes being watched is a test of skill, but it is not. It is a test of composure. You do not need to say the smartest thing, or wear the finest suit. You need to hold your ground without shrinking. Because the crowd is not listening to your words first. They are measuring your energy. They are deciding if you bend or if you stand tall when you appear unbothered. They project strength onto you even if you have not yet proved anything. And when they project that strength, they begin to treat you as if it were true. This is why the first moments matter more than anything else. The first second you walk in, the first look you give, the first silence you hold, sets the frame. If you rush to perform, you step into their frame. But if you walk in and breathe like you belong, you set your own frame and the room bends toward it. They cannot help it. Humans follow composure. They trust stillness more than noise. They believe the one who does not flinch must know something deeper, must carry something heavier, must be built of something harder. The eyes on you are not your enemy. They are your stage. The whispers are not threats. They are proof that you command attention. You do not need to fight for acceptance. You need to stand in the fire without blinking. Because when you do, the eyes that once judged you begin to follow you. And that is the beginning of real power. The trap of performance is invisible at first, because it feels like the right thing to do. You walk into a room and the eyes are heavy on you, and your instinct is to fill that space with words, with gestures, with proof that you belong. You think if you talk enough, if you show enough, if you explain enough, they will finally accept you. But what really happens is the opposite. The more you perform, the more you leak insecurity. The crowd is not convinced by the performance. They are convinced by the person who does not feel the need to perform at all. This is why overtalking becomes poison. You think it makes you look knowledgeable, but it makes you look desperate. Every extra word says, "I am trying to win your approval," and the second you are trying, you have already lost. Because power is not something you chase, it is something you project. When you explain too much, you shift the weight from certainty to doubt, and the listeners do not walk away remembering your brilliance. They walk away remembering your need to be believed. Overcompensation works. The same way someone makes a light joke about you, and instead of letting it die, you laugh too loudly, or defend too quickly, or try to prove the opposite. In that moment, the room does not hear your words. They see your fear. They see that the jab landed, and the more you try to erase it, the more it sticks. Because the rule of performance is simple. The harder you try to control what they think, the more they control you. Validation is the sweetest trap of all because it feels like safety. When people nod, when they smile, when they clap, you feel strong, but that strength is borrowed. It is fragile because it belongs to them, not you. The one who lives on validation is always hungry, always restless, always chasing another nod, another smile, another laugh, and the tragedy is that the more they chase it, the less respect they receive, because respect is not given to those who beg for it. It is given to those who carry themselves as if they already own it. The unshakable know this. They understand that the room is always testing, always waiting to see who will dance for approval and who will not. The performer may get quick applause, but the one who stands calm without chasing it earns something far deeper. A quiet weight, a presence that lingers long after words fade, because people remember who did not bend. People remember who did not need the crowd to breathe. The trap of performance is everywhere in business, in friendships, in love. You see it when someone cannot stop talking about their success, when someone cannot let silence sit, when someone cannot take a joke without defending themselves, and you feel it as weakness even if you cannot name it. Because true strength does not beg to be noticed. True strength does not audition, it simply is. The way out of the trap is simple but not easy. You must train yourself to resist the urge to perform, to let silence breathe, to let judgment hang without answering it when you feel the heat. You slow down when you want to prove, you wait when you want to explain. You hold your tongue because every time you do, you step out of the trap and into real power, the kind of power that cannot be faked. Because it is not about being liked, it is about being untouchable. Stillness is the first real weapon of the unshakable, and it is sharper than any word or clever response. Because people are not watching only what you say, they are watching what you do with your body. They notice the twitch of your fingers, the tap of your foot, the shift of your eyes, and each small signal tells them if you are strong or if you are breaking. When you hold still, when you do not let nervous energy spill out of you, the room begins to feel something different. They begin to wonder why you are so calm under pressure, and in that wondering, they hand you power without realizing it. Most people do not understand how loud their bodies speak. They think silence is enough, but silence with restless movements is no silence at all. It betrays the storm inside, and the crowd feels it. They sense weakness before a word is spoken. They see the fidget. They hear the stammer, and their judgment sharpens. Because they smell insecurity in the air, the unshakable learn to master stillness, not as a trick but as armor. Because when your body is quiet, your power is amplified, your calmness becomes the frame of the room, and suddenly those watching you feel their own tension rise while yours seems to disappear. Think about the moments that stay in your mind, the people who walked into a space and without saying much held everyone's attention. It was not because they were loud, it was not because they tried hard. It was because they carried themselves with stillness. They did not rush, they did not fumble, they did not look around for permission. They stood or sat as if the ground itself belonged to them. That is what stillness does. It tells the world, I am not threatened, and once they believe you are not threatened, they start to feel threatened by you. This does not mean you become rigid or stiff. Stillness is not about freezing. It is about controlled ease. It is the slow movement of eyes that do not dart, but scan with patience. It is the steady breath that does not quicken when tension rises. It is the way your hands rest instead of wave nervously. It is the way you let silence stretch without scrambling to fill it. This kind of stillness unsettles people because most cannot hold it. They break after seconds. They rush to talk. They rush to move. They rush to ease their own discomfort. But when you do not join them, you expose their weakness without ever pointing it out. Stillness is armor because it keeps you from leaking fear. Every movement you do not make protects your frame. Every pause you hold keeps you in control, and the longer you maintain it, the heavier your presence grows. You do not need to argue. You do not need to explain. You do not even need to resist, because stillness itself is resistance. It shows that nothing thrown at you reached deep enough to disturb your balance, and that is the message that creates respect. The room will always test you with stares, with silence, with provocation, but if you can remain still, if you can let the storm swirl without moving with it, you will always appear larger than the storm itself, and that is when the watchers stop questioning you and start questioning themselves. Silence is the most underestimated signal of power because most people cannot handle it when judgment comes their way. They panic and try to fill the space. With explanations, they think if they just talk enough, if they repeat themselves enough, if they make their reasons clear enough, then the judgment will dissolve. But the truth is, every word spoken in defense makes them look smaller. The more they explain, the more guilty they appear, because in the eyes of the crowd, only the weak feel the need to justify themselves. When you hold silence in the face of judgment, you change the frame completely. Instead of being the one accused, you become the one observing. Instead of being on trial, you make the accuser look desperate. They expected resistance. They expected argument. They expected energy from you, but when you give them nothing, the spotlight turns back onto them. Suddenly, they are the ones scrambling for validation. They are the ones repeating themselves. They are the ones starting to sound insecure while you remain calm, untouched, and untouchable. Silence works because it creates mystery. People cannot help but wonder why you did not answer. Was the attack too weak to bother you? Did you know something they did not did? Their words reveal more about them than about you. Their minds begin to spin, and in that spinning, you grow larger. You become the one in control without lifting a finger, because silence makes the world do the work for you. It forces people to project strength onto you, even if you said nothing at all. This is not easy because silence burns. It feels heavy to sit in the heat of an accusation without responding. It feels unnatural to let others think whatever they want about you. But this is where the Unshakeable separate themselves. They understand that the goal is not to be understood, the goal is to control the frame. You do not want clarity, you want dominance. You do not need to prove you are innocent. You need to show that you are above the need to prove anything. And when you hold silence, with confidence, that is exactly the message that gets sent. Think about a meeting where someone tries to undermine you. If you jump to defend yourself, you lower your status immediately. The room sees you as rattled. But if you stay silent, if you lean back, if you let the moment hang, the energy flips. Everyone starts watching the accuser, waiting to see if they have more to say. And often they do not. They repeat themselves, and in that repetition, they look weaker. Each time your silence has now turned their words into a mirror, and the reflection is unkind. Silence is not absence, it is presence sharpened. It says more than words ever could. It says, I am not shaken, I am not bending, I am not here to seek approval. It tells the world, I am not the one being measured, you are. And the longer you can hold it, the deeper the message cuts, until the crowd itself begins to defend you without you asking. And that is when you understand the true power of silence. There is a point when you realize the eyes on you do not have to be a weight pressing you down, but a force you can bend to your own design. Most people, when they are judged, shrink into themselves. They lower their voice, they rush their words, they look for a corner to hide, but the Unshakeable understand a different rule. The gaze of others is not a cage, it is a light. And light can expose or it can illuminate if you know how to use it. When you stop fearing judgment, you begin to redirect it. The stares that once made you nervous become energy in your favor. You let them watch you not as prey, but as a stage. Every movement, every pause, every silence becomes deliberate. And the more they watch, the more power you gain, because they are not just looking at you. They are feeding your presence with their attention. They think they are testing you, but really, they are crowning you. Judgment is only dangerous if you accept its frame. If you act as though the room has the authority to decide your worth, you lose the game the moment you try to pass their test. But when you carry yourself as if the test does not exist, the energy flips now. They are the ones wondering if they are being measured. By you, the stares that once threatened you now feel like proof that you matter, because people do not waste attention on the irrelevant. They watch what unsettles them. They watch what intrigues them. And in that realization, you stop running from the gaze, and you start commanding it. Think of the times you saw someone walk into a room, and instead of shrinking under attention, they expanded, they spoke less. But every word was noticed. They moved slowly, but every step was watched. They did not try to earn approval, yet approval followed them. This is the art of turning the gaze. It is the difference between fearing eyes and feeding off them. It is not arrogance, it is awareness. The awareness that attention is a currency, and those who panic under it lose, while those who hold it calmly multiply it. To turn judgment into spotlight, you must train yourself to see the gaze differently. Not as attack, but as opportunity. Each stare is a chance to project strength. Each whisper is a chance to show composure when someone questions you in public instead of rushing to explain. You let the pause stretch you, let the silence gather weight until the room begins to see you as the one in control. The very act of not being shaken becomes the performance that wins them over, not through effort, but through restraint. The spotlight is feared by most because it reveals cracks, but if you stand still long enough, if you breathe with ease under its heat, the spotlight no longer exposes you, it elevates you. What once felt like danger now feels like stage lights, and you are the one holding the room without trying when you reach this point. Judgment loses its power, because you no longer see it as something to avoid. You see it as proof that you are already above the crowd, and that is when the gaze becomes not your enemy, but your greatest weapon. The moment you realize you're being watched, you must also realize you are already inside a frame. The frame is the unspoken story others are telling about you before you open your mouth. It is the lens through which your actions are judged. The insecure accept this frame without resistance. They step into the box that was built for them and then struggle when they feel trapped inside it. But the unshakable know that the frame is never fixed. It can be reshaped. It can be bent. It can be rewritten by the way you carry yourself, by the way you hold silence, by the way you command attention without asking. Control of the frame begins with tempo, because whoever controls the pace controls the story. Most people rush when they feel eyes on them. They speed their words, they shorten their breath, they let the judgment of others dictate their rhythm. But the strong slow down. They move at their own pace, they make others adjust to them. Not the other way around. They understand that speed is submission and calm tempo is dominance. A pause that feels natural to you, feels like eternity to the insecure, and in that eternity, the room bends toward your timing. Another way to seize the frame is by asking questions, because the one who asks is the one who leads. If someone challenges you in a meeting and you leap to defend yourself, you are still inside their frame. But if you lean back and say, "Explain your view," then suddenly the spotlight moves off you and onto them. Now they are the one performing. Now they are the one on trial. And the eyes that once judged you are judging them. Instead, this is the subtle shift of power that comes from refusing to answer on their terms and instead forcing them to answer on yours. Commanding space is also part of frame control, not by being loud or overbearing, but by being deliberate. The way you stand, the way you sit, the way you hold your body says more than your words ever could. When you take your time, when you do not rush to fill silence, when you stand firmly without shrinking, you tell the room that this space is yours, and once they believe it, they stop questioning it. The frame no longer belongs to them, it belongs to you. The strongest never accept the narrative handed to them. They reshape it every moment they know that people are not really watching for truth. They are watching for cues. They are deciding what to believe based on how you make them feel. If you let them frame you as nervous, you look nervous. If you let them frame you as guilty, you look guilty. But if you set the frame as calm, confident, and unbothered, that is what they see, because perception bends toward whoever holds it with the most certainty. Being watched is unavoidable, but being defined is optional when you master tempo. When you ask instead of answer, when you command the space you stand in, you stop living inside their frame, and you start making them live inside yours. And once they are inside your frame, every judgment, every stare, every whisper becomes a tool you already control. Judgment is never really about you. It is about the person who casts it. People project their fears, their doubts, their insecurities onto others because it is easier than facing themselves when they say you are arrogant. What they often mean is they feel small when they say you are cold. What they often mean is they crave warmth. They cannot reach when they say you are selfish. What they often mean is they resent that you do not bend to their demands. Judgment is a mirror, not a verdict. And the moment you stop flinching, you hold that mirror steady until they are forced to look at themselves. Most people panic under judgment. They rush to defend, to explain, to soften, because they believe the words thrown at them carry authority. But when you remain calm, when you refuse to feed the moment with energy, the judgment begins to bounce back, and it no longer defines you. It defines the one who spoke it. Silence turns into reflection, and that reflection grows heavier with every second you refuse to play their game. Think about a time when someone hurled criticism, and the target said nothing. The room began to shift. The critic kept talking. Their tone grew sharper, their voice less certain. The silence pressed against them like weight, and soon they looked like the unstable one. Not the accused. This is the mirror effect at work when you hold still, when you do not flinch. The words that were meant to cut, you end up cutting the one who spoke them. Because everyone watching is not really judging the target. They are judging the balance of composure between the two. The mirror effect is powerful because it is simple. You do not need to fight back. You do not need to prove. You do not even need to correct the lie. You only need to remain present enough that the insecurity of the other person is revealed on its own. This is why the unshakable are feared. It is not that they attack it. is that they never break, and their stillness makes others confront their own cracks. In relationships, in work, in public settings, this pattern repeats. The person who rushes to judge reveals more about themselves than about you. Their need to point their finger is evidence of something unsettled inside them, and if you refuse to flinch, the evidence becomes visible to everyone else without you lifting a finger. That is the beauty of the mirror effect. It forces truth out into the open, not because you fought for it, but because you refuse to carry someone else's projection. The crowd always notices who stays calm and who loses balance. They may not say it out loud, but they feel it in their bones. Judgment is never neutral. It always reflects either your weakness or theirs. And by holding still, you make sure it reflects theirs every time. When you understand this, you stop fearing judgment entirely because you know it is not a verdict. It is a confession, not from you, but from them. And your only job is to hold the mirror steady until the truth reveals itself. Most people believe they win respect. By proving themselves, they chase certificates, achievements, applause, long explanations of why they deserve to be taken seriously. They walk into rooms carrying lists of reasons to be accepted, and yet the more they try to prove, the less powerful they appear. Because proof is always defensive. It always answers to someone else. As frame presence is different. Presence does not argue. Presence does not beg. Presence does not seek permission. It simply fills the space with quiet certainty until everyone else begins to adjust around it. Presence is what makes judgment irrelevant, because it leaves no opening for doubt. When you radiate presence, the room does not ask if you are good enough. They simply feel that you are. They sense it in the calm of your body, the steadiness of your breath, the weight in your gaze, the slow way you move, as if time bends to your rhythm. You do not need to tell people who you are. They feel it long before you speak, and that feeling is stronger than any proof you could ever offer. Think of the people who stand out. The ones who enter a space and without effort the attention shifts to them. They do not talk the loudest. They do not show off their resume. They do not explain why they deserve respect. They carry themselves as if they are already complete, as if nothing in the room can add or subtract from their worth. That is presence, and it is far more magnetic than any performance, because presence cannot be faked for long. It is the natural glow of someone who is not asking to be measured. The insecure cannot grasp this. They believe more proof will finally win the respect they crave, but proof is endless. Once you start, you can never stop. There will always be another critic, another doubt, another question to answer, and in chasing those answers, you show that you depend on others to validate you. But presence breaks the cycle. Presence tells the world you do not depend on them. They depend on you. And once they feel that, they stop questioning and start following. Presence makes you untouchable because it shifts the burden away from you and onto them. They are left wondering why you are so calm, why you are not rushing to defend, why you are not scrambling for approval. And in that wondering, they begin to project strength onto you. They assume you know more, they assume you see more, they assume you cannot be shaken. Presence is not about having all the answers. It is about being so secure that you do not need to answer at all. When you train yourself to hold presence over proof, you stop living in reaction. You stop trying to keep up with every judgment, every stare, every doubt. Instead, you move through rooms like you already own them, not with arrogance, but with quiet gravity, and people feel it. They sense that you are not there to audition, you are there to command. And that is why presence wins, where proof always fails. The final stage is not about holding still under pressure or refusing to defend yourself. It is something beyond that. It is when the eyes on you no longer feel like an attack. They feel like orbit. You are not resisting their judgment anymore. You are bending it around you like gravity. What once felt heavy now feels natural, and instead of draining you, the attention fuels you. You become a presence so complete that the gaze of others only confirms what you already know. You are untouchable. At this stage, you are not surviving the gaze, you are shaping it. People watch you not to catch a mistake, but to take direction. They lean into your silence. They adjust to your rhythm. They wait for your smallest move. Because your aura has made them cautious. They sense that every action you take carries weight, and so they measure themselves against it. The room that once threatened you now crowns you without ceremony, because authority flows to the one who cannot be shaken. Judgment changes shape when you reach this point, Before it was a test, something you felt you had to pass or fail. But now it becomes a mirror of your strength when people question you. It no longer feels personal. It feels predictable. You expect it, and instead of tightening, you breathe deeper, because you know that every doubt aimed at you will only highlight your composure. Every whisper will only expand your presence. Every accusation will only collapse under the weight of your calm. This is what happens when judgment no longer defines you but defines them. The aura of the unshakable is not built in a day. It is carved slowly through silence, through stillness, through the refusal to perform, through the discipline of never explaining more than necessary. Every time you resist the urge to defend, every time you let words hang unanswered, every time you choose calm over reaction, you add another layer to your aura, until one day you walk into rooms and the shift is instant. People feel it without knowing why. They sense gravity around you, and they treat you differently. Not because of what you have said, but because of what you no longer need to say. You stop being a person who is tested and start becoming the standard others test themselves against. They think before they speak to you. They measure their tone. They second-guess their jabs. Because your aura has already declared the outcome. You will not flinch, you will not bend, you will not shrink. And that certainty makes them hesitate. Power lives in that hesitation. The unshakable do not chase reputation. They radiate it. They do not live for applause, they live above it. They understand that being misunderstood is no threat, because mystery is part of their shield. The aura they carry is not about being liked. It is about being untouchable. And when you reach this level, judgment does not weaken you. It crowns you, because the crowd no longer sees you as someone to bring down. They see you as someone they cannot reach. Maybe this video helped you see yourself or someone you know in a different way. Feel free to let us know via a like or in the comments. And if you want more wisdom and guidance in becoming a better version of yourself, subscribe now. This is the moment to start becoming the person you really want to be.